Hi, this is Matt Kendall here, and today I've got Trevor Tacey, who did my IEMT Practitioner training. I think it was May, wasn't it? It was a couple of months ago. We were trying to work out. Today, I'm certifying Trevor to be a practitioner because he supplied us 2 case studies. We've just been through them. As part of the course, we've just done about half an hour, haven't we? Just going through the case studies to see if there's any questions, any help which I can give, and that's part of the certification process. We're now able to certify him. He's joined the association, and this afternoon I will be sending out his practitioner certificate. So Trevor, let me ask you, what is your background in therapy? What sort of training stuff? Before you came to IEMT, what were you up to?
I trained in EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping, in 2009.
Okay.
And then went on to do the advanced level in 2012, and started my own business up, mostly working with people with addictions and trauma. But I started off with that because that was sort of my background. That's what sort of where I came from, but then over a period of time, I moved into there was more. I was getting approached by more people that were saying that they were suffering with the same sort of emotional problems, but it was nothing to do with addiction. So I ended up working with people with stress and anxiety and very not deep depression, but sort of mild depression.
I get you. No, I think that therapists are a really good. Well, I call us more kind of change workers rather than. I class therapists as like counselors, and change workers as somebody who is somebody you should sort of go to before it becomes a medical, before they have to go to the doctor with something, And it's also quite hard to go to the doctor to say you've got a fear or phobia or some sort of emotional problem, because there's not a whole lot, and apart from refer you out to counselling, there's not a lot they can do, with that kind of situation. So you're doing EFT. And you said you came from a background addiction yourself, is that correct? And now you're working.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're working with similar people, and then you were doing your EFT training, which is the tapping and stuff, and then you went to work on with more emotional issues, the things that people are kind of coming to you with. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So how did you hear and learn about IEMT? What was your introduction to it?
I was trying to think about this the other day. I'm not entirely sure. I know it was on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it was on Facebook or whether it came up on something I was searching, and I just I got curious and had a look at it, and it came up with you. Well, actually, I checked a couple of other people out as well, and then I came back to you. And saw the that you were doing this training in May, so I signed up for it. I just thought it'd really complement what I'm already doing.
I think it was probably in a Facebook group, if I remember correctly, probably like hypnotherapy marketing or one of them. Yeah, because I do post quite regularly in quite about half a dozen groups, I suppose, online. So. And did you come to my online webinar, the Removing Negative Memories webinar at all?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay. So for some people who might know me, I do a webinar roughly about once a month, and it's just like a 2-hour workshop where we talk about memory and different therapy interventions, and then we do some, some sort of testing with IEMT, some sort of demonstrations. So you didn't know anybody who'd done the course or had any experience with IEMT before?
No, not at all. No.
So you just thought, right, I'm going to put. And were you aware of eye movement therapy and EMDR and stuff like that? Were you aware of?
I'd heard of EMDR, but I hadn't heard of IEMT before. Never.
Okay.
Okay. But I think what attracted me to it was I had quite, because I was working with quite a few female clients, and sometimes they have sort of issues that they don't want to talk about, and this seemed like an ideal opportunity, to try something where there was no content, where they didn't have to speak about it, and it could still clear negative memories. So that was the real crux of it for me, really. That's what really attracted me to this. I sort of complement what I'm already doing.
Yeah, if people are wondering what we mean here, IEMT is what we call content free, pretty much. But there is a bit of content, you know.
Yeah.
But generally, you're not talking about the problems. What we're interested in is the structure of the problem and the identities and stuff around it, basically how they learned how to be this way. So we're taking the full kinesthetic reaction to go back to imprints of earlier times. And we don't need to know what happened. So we can really work with people, and we'll talk about the PTSD in a bit, but we can really work with people without them having to sit there for hours, you know, hours on end, going over what's wrong with me, blah, 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 you know, trying to explain their story. We're very much into how they're feeling and how they're being. And so we can begin to actually intervene and change it, yeah, without having to talk about it. So I like it for that as well. So you came to do the online training because the world is closed. And so he did it from home. It was a week. Yeah, it was a weekend one year. So sometimes I do weekends, sometimes I do it during the week. So it's a weekend course. So from your experience, somebody's been on different training courses, and you may not have done one online before, but what was your experience going through the weekend in terms of the skills you were learning, the pacing of it, the content, working with other people? What was your experience like of the weekend training?
I really enjoyed it, to be honest. I found it, you know, I mean, I was there was a lot of content in there, and there was a lot to take in that period of time. But I found your way of training was, you know, I was really calm. I really felt it was like I was sat in my front room, you know. It was like just having a conversation and learning as I was going along. So there was some fun involved, but what I really enjoyed was the interaction with the others when we went out into breakout rooms.
Yeah,
we're able to you know, to practice some of the skills that you were teaching us, because otherwise it was the intellectual side of it, you know, in the learning, the training. It's all well and good, but actually doing it made a big difference, you know. And the other part about it that I found, besides that, I found it really, you know, I was worried about whether there was too much information for me to take on, and it did feel like that sometimes. But it was really, I didn't realise how much I was taking in as I was going along, and then when we practiced it, I realised, you know, that I had learned a lot, you know, in that period of time. And all gone over the top of my head. But the other part of it was I had the opportunity afterwards, you know, I found the videos really useful, and I went back to them time and time again, you know, the video of the actual course, and the way it's broken up, so I could go back time and time again and try different things and practice them and take more notes. And it was really good. I just really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Because I understand it's a lot of information to take in. So what I do is I send out the manual, and I send out some videos for people to watch a week in advance, so they have a good run up, as it were. With the teaching, I always talk about this. I have like a 4-stage approach when teaching. Everything's broken down to, I think it's about 15 modules. We have 15 different things that we do, and they all build together, you know, like Lego bricks, basically. I do an introduction to what it is and sort of explain the concept. I then do a demonstration with somebody. You then go into a breakout room. If you don't know what breakout room is essentially this that we have now. So in Zoom, if we have like 10, 12 people, everyone's on the screen. I then break that into 6 pairs, and you go into your own private room. So you can actually, for 10, 15 minutes, you're going to work with each other using that skill. And then we have a review, and any questions, and everybody wants to share any experiences before we move on to the next concept, before we move on to the next module. And as you said, it's recorded, and there's not 15 videos, because, you know, we lump them together in like a few hours at a time. But I do break them up into different days and different times. So if you're thinking, right, well, I'm a bit uncertain on doing the complex identity pattern, you know, you can go back and access the video and watch me giving like the demonstration, the explanation about that. yeah, to review, and that's what they're there for. So you can go back, and also we have you've got your own WhatsApp groups. I know you do your own meetups and stuff, and obviously the Facebook group as well, which I'm in every day, answering questions. I'm also on email and stuff. So I really do like to help people to become practitioners. Like as you said, you were quite, apprehensive about the amount of work and putting it into practice, as it were. So you did the 2-day course. We learned in this modular style. You did the breakout rooms and everything. Let's now talk about taking it from this world into your world. So as part of the certification process, you have to go work with 2 people who essentially you don't know, who they don't know about IEMT. It's best when they don't know. So when you do it, they're like, it's just so they can't pretend to play along because they don't know what's happening. So you worked with 2 people. So let's talk about the first person that we worked with first. And I'm not going to obviously discuss any confidential stuff, but you worked with a female client, first of all, who was having problems at work and at home. So tell us, what was it like working with your first client using the IEMT modules and structure?
Yeah, I was a bit apprehensive to start with, being my first client, and but once we got into it, it just seemed to flow really naturally, and I realized afterwards I didn't have so much to worry about. I followed, as I said earlier, I followed the manual, while I was doing these, because I couldn't remember everything. I wanted to make sure that I did it in the proper sequence and not miss anything out. And so I followed the manual while we were working, and found it. And to start with, we started do it with the simple pattern for memories, for negative memories. So I got her to think of a negative memory and bring it to mind, and then we did the sequence around it. And the thing was, because I know nothing about this, just blown away by it, and they just can't understand. They look bewildered, really. She looked bewildered at the end of it, thinking, well, how could that happen? And it was just gone. This negative memory that she'd had for I don't know how long, quite a while. She said, and was just gone. And then we went into working on the problem that she had, which was around work. She was a director in a business, and needed to do team meetings where she'd need to take people to task sometimes on what customers had said and one thing, and it's sort of, and she was really not confident around that. So that's sort of the work. That's the work we. That's what we worked on.
Yeah.
And by the time we'd got to the end of it, she was feeling well. She reported back that she'd been into one of these team meetings, and it had felt completely different. And she just could get on with it.
Because what I noticed, it said that in her intake form, she wanted to feel more confident and what have you in these situations.
Yeah.
So in IEMT, we can't give somebody confidence. That's just weird. But what we can do is we look at the problem underneath that they're having. And once you address those, you're just on like a level playing field. You know what I mean? You're just back to, you're stopping these overreactions to people and situations. So you can just be, just make better decisions and just be who you are rather than being sort of reactive, as it were. And you spoke to this woman like recently, didn't you, after her sessions, and she'd made even more progress since the sessions, hadn't she?
Yes, she had. She'd actually gone into one of these team meetings where she'd had to come from certain team members about things, complaints maybe that customers had, and she just felt really different about doing it. It was just a job, and she didn't have all that anxiety. She didn't feel all that anxiety around confronting people about things. So she was really, she was really pleased with the results.
Excellent. The second case study you worked on was a gentleman, like middle-aged. He had anger-related problems, and he'd suffered a knife attack when it was early 20s, wasn't it? He had some sort of knife attack, a facial knife attack. Yeah. So very, very different. So you have one woman who wants to be, who's a company director, who wants to be more confident in team meetings. And we're going to work with a guy who got attacked with a knife in his early 20s and has anger issues now. You can't really get more further apart than those two. So what was it like then working with a very different type of case? And so just tell us, how was it working with this chap?
Well, I didn't know about the knife attack before.
Okay.
I knew that he had anger issues, and he wanted to change his behaviours around that because he was acting out on his anger, and he was getting into all sorts of fallouts with people and one thing and another, and he didn't like it, and so he wanted to change that side of his life. So when he came to see me, that's what we initially started working on. And so I was doing the different patterns around anger, and well, we started off with a negative memory, and then when we were working through it, it kept the trauma part of it came out. It was obvious that he'd had a knife attack. He was in front of me, with a big scar down the side of his face, and then it came out about this. This attack that happened when he was 49 at the time, and it was 22 when he had the knife attack. So he had it for a long time, and so eventually we'd work through a few areas around anger, about memories and so forth, and then we ended up moving into the PTSD model of IEMT, in which we mapped out what had happened during that time, during that attack, and what happened before, what happened at the time, what happened afterwards. And it was interesting because as we were working through it, I've got to admit, I was a bit apprehensive about how he was going to react to working through this mapping out of the actual event. And but it surprised me that when we started working through it, he was quite intrigued about what had happened, how it had built up, and and the areas, and also he started to recognize some areas that he hadn't understood before, or he hadn't remembered, that were quite important to the actual story. And then we got to and after we'd mapped it all out, I explained to him about a linchpin as something that he either done or not done during that time that was really relevant. But everything hung on this thing that he'd either done or not done during this event. And then we did some work on that, and cleared that out of the way. And then he just sort of, you can sort of recognize, what I realized, I sort of saw as he was working through this stuff, and we got out the other side of it, that he just looked a lot more relaxed, and a lot more, calmer and in himself. And but then we moved on to another area, where it was in the identities part, but also, it was about nicknames, and he came up with this thing that really affected him, and because of his scar, he'd been nicknamed Billy Two Smiles, and he said that, it was. He explained a little bit to me about it, how it affected him, because not only did it make him angry, people called him this, but every time he got called it, because he didn't see his face, he most probably only sees, the scar when he looks in the mirror or whatever. But whenever anybody called him that name, you know what I mean, it brought that trauma back to him every time. So
of course.
we did some work around that and cleared that out of the way, and a few other areas, you know what I mean, that bothered him. But at the end of it, he said he felt, the first session we did, he went home and he said, I felt really spaced out, and and he lives on his own, so he isolates a lot. And he said he felt really spaced out, so he went to bed, and he went to sleep for about an hour. He says when he woke up, he felt amazing. And he says, I felt that good. He says, I went out and met some of my friends, and you know, and socialized with them, and he said, I had a really good night, and came back, you know what I mean? So he was like really buzzing about that after he came back for the second session. And then I'm going to, I said I was going to check up on him, you know, and see how he was doing in the next day or so. So I'll see how he goes from there. But after we'd finished the second session, you know, I mean, he just said he felt so much different to how he had when he first came to see me.
Let me ask him, because did you do these sessions in person or online?
I actually did them in person. This one in person.
Let me ask you.
What I do, I sort of do one lateral flow test. I've had both.
Okay, yeah.
So we do a lateral flow test each,
right?
And bring them along with us, and did it that way. So
let me ask you. The reason why I ask is the difference between the first session and the second session. So what was he like from the first time that you met him when he came through your door on the first session? And then when you saw him on the second session, what was his body language like? What was his temperament like between the sessions?
You could see him. He was not so tense, you know what I mean? You could just see him. You could just see that he was more relaxed and at ease, you know what I mean? He felt, I mean, there'll be something around that he was starting to trust me more as well, you know what I mean? But also, you know, his body language was saying, you know what I mean, he was not so tense
because the thing is, if you've got this trauma that's kind of going on, and you know, which is like a shadow or a cloud really over your life, your body's going to be in fight or flight for a lot of the time. And so once you incapacitate that way of being, that way of feeling, you feel much better. And it isn't like, I don't know if you know much about hypnosis and NLP, but there's a lot of take that feeling, make it bigger, you are the greatest. We don't do anything like that in IEMT. All we're looking to do is incapacitate these negative ways of feeling and being. Because once you stop somebody feeling bad, they feel good. That our natural feeling, our way of being is good, you know, and once you stop, you know, you may not have discussed this with them, but once you stop all this crap from the past sort of happening, people's futures become a lot better naturally without having to make goals or dreams. It's because when we think about our future, it kind of loops through our past and then projects forwards, you know, because of what's happened before. And so hope is an important thing. So once you start to get rid of all this stuff, when it loops through, it's no longer picking this stuff up, and your vision of the future is much better, and it makes you more motivated. It makes you happier. And I can remember Andrew Austin always said that people with depression have nothing to look forward to. They have nothing coming up in their life. So when I start with IEMT, and when you start working on this, and you can also do obviously the anticipated events and actually get them moving forward, their focus becomes future focused rather than just thinking about their, you know, what's happened to them. We can start to get them away from that, and not to ignore it, but to work on it. And then they become future focused rather than trying to escape their past. They're at ease with their past. And now they're going on to do these things which before they didn't have the confidence or the motivation to do. So you're saying with that your first lady, your first case, she's doing some course which she would never have done before. She was like doing some extra training or course, wasn't she? That she sort of was self-motivated to do. And you'll find this, people who do isolate themselves away. I know we've had a pandemic, but they'll want to start to go out and do things because they've missed out on so many years of not doing stuff that they actually want to go out and they start living. And now they're laying down these experiences of life, and when they go, it's better. And so people really can change, you know, in a very short amount of time. If you stop somebody feeling really bad and then they start doing different things, very soon their life's on a different trajectory.
Yeah.
So apart from working with those 2 case studies, have you worked with anybody else? Anything you'd like to sort of mention? Any other cases? Any kind of experiences at all? Or
oh yeah, I've roped everybody in. Oh, sit with me for a while. I've had most of my children have had a go.
Okay.
I'll tell you one that I was really pleased with. My granddaughter. She's 11, and she was moving from one school to another into another year
right.
at school, and she was really worried that she'd had someone had bullied her at that school,
right.
and he was also going to the new school, and his mum told me that she was really anxious about it and worried. You know, it was really starting to take over, and so I went and did just a simple pattern on a negative memory with her, and she loved it. You know, she really took to it, and that's all I did. You know what I mean? Just that simple. On a negative memory, and I did all the you know, is it a movie, is it a picture, you know what I mean, how clear is it, and what level is it at, and it went down. You know, we did a couple of rounds, and it went down, and she just went off to school, and she's no problem with it at all.
Perfect.
Never mentioned it again.
That's really good. Really good. Yeah. Let me ask you, we're going to wrap this up now. Going forward, how do you plan on using IEMT? Who do you want to work with? What's kind of like your future plan, as it were, with IEMT?
Well, I find it, I've used it with EFT with people as well, you know, so I've used the 2 together.
How did that work, combining them?
Yeah, really well. It really worked well. I mean, because I'll do some EFT with someone, it'll bring up a negative memory, and rather than me carry on with the EFT, I'll sit them down, I'll just do the IEMT with it and clear it straight away. Perfect. And then we'll perhaps carry on with the IEMT, or we might go back to the EFT. But you know, I mean, I can just combine the 2 together really easily. Cool. But the way forward, I'm still gonna. I mean, this lockdown has really affected me, because I didn't do a lot of mine was all face-to-face work, and I didn't really want to go into the doing it online. But now I'm feeling different about it, especially with this with the IEMT model as well, and I'm feeling more confident about doing that. So I think I'm going to go into doing more online. It ain't going to be over, and I thought it was going to be over in a year, and obviously not. But yeah, it's still on the same sort of lines. You know, I work with people with addictions, trauma, and negative memories, and whatever. You know what I mean? And just see what comes up. I'll be doing some marketing over the next few weeks now, and just getting back into it.
Good man. Yeah. So there might be some people sat at home or on the tube or on the train, we don't know where they are, watching this interview or listening, because I'm going to turn these into a podcast, and they're listening to this guy Trevor, who's done this IEMT course and now using it, and they're thinking, I could do this IEMT course, but I don't have enough training, or I don't feel confident enough, or I'm just not quite sure. Trevor, what do you have to say to these people who are sat on this fence, deciding whether they should do this course or not, with this crazy bald magician fella? I'm not a magician, but what do you have to say to those people who like yourself, like had no experience of eye movement work before, but then you learnt about it, you did the course, and now you're incorporating it with your work and getting even better results? What do you have to say to those people who are on the fence?
I think, you know, I'd absolutely recommend it to anyone, you know, who wants to help other people. I mean, because it's the ideal thing about it is, I mean, I don't know whether people realize how, not only how effective it is, but how important it is, I think, is not to have that content in there, you know, that you don't have to talk. A lot of people don't want to talk about their problems, and it stops them from getting help. And this is an ideal opportunity to do that. And this platform is a way of helping so many more people. And if it's something you want to do, if you're interested in helping other people, this method is definitely the way to go. And yeah, and I'll definitely recommend your training.
Well, thank you very much. And one last thing, actually, because obviously when we go through the training, you do lots of exercise on each other. And a lot of people don't realize how much benefit they will get by attending, the amount of work which they do on themselves. So what was that like, having the work done on you, and what sort of experiences did you have from that?
That's right. I mean, the best way to if you want to, you know, feel, the best way to recommend anything is to actually feel the benefits that you get from the actual process. And being in that training, you felt the benefits of that, you know, during the training. So it wasn't just about the academic side of it and the training side of it. You actually felt it, you know. I mean, you could feel the differences that were made in a short period of time, you know, very quickly. And sometimes it was, I had some work done by you, you know what I mean, which, you know, was obviously really effective. But, you know, when you're working with other people are in the same boat that I am, and we're still getting results, you know what I mean, it's even more profound.
What did, just to refresh my memory, when we did, because did I use you for a demonstration?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And what was it? What demonstration was it, and what was it like?
It was, it's the memory. It's a simple pattern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the beginning, and I just think of a negative memory, and you know, and it was gone, you know, straight away.
Yeah.
And it was you know, I mean, I was really just taken immediately, you know, taken by it. How powerful this technique is.
It really is. It's very, do you know what? It's very powerful because it removes the power from things. Yeah. So a lot of, again, I don't dislike NLP or hypnosis, but a lot of these kind of sensational therapies try to just stick happy feelings onto a problem and make you feel really confident. Or if you go to one of these motivational weekends where you're beating your chest and stamping on, walking on fires and whatever, all that kind of nonsense, you'll feel good for a little bit, but there's no change taking place, and you're creating a time bomb of problems there. With IEMT, we're going into the problem, so there really isn't a problem anymore. So it's kind of it's sort of dissipating the problems rather than overpowering. So it's very powerful in its subtlety, I suppose, what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah, I think somebody asked a question after I'd said, well, it's gone, you know what I mean? It's gone completely. And they said, what? The memory's gone. And it isn't, you know what I mean? The memory doesn't disappear. You can still remember what happened. It's in some sort of magic trick that's happening. You know, and the memory is still there, but the emotion attached to that memory, which was really powerful for me, you know, on that particular memory, was gone.
Yeah.
So that's all it was. It was just a memory. And what I'm realizing when I'm working with people is, every time we clear one of those negative memories with that emotion attached to it, we get a little bit more peace in our lives. And as we carry on doing those things and clearing these things out, we get more peace in our lives.
Yeah.
And that, you know what I mean? And that for me is you know, you can't put a price on that. You know what I mean? Well, like you said before, you know what I mean, about us, we're running around in fight or flight most of the time when we've got this stuff going off that we haven't dealt with. And and then as we start clearing it out of the way, we get more peaceful. And the thing is that it's not only about my peace, it's about how it affects the people around me as well.
Yeah. I think a really good example of this is that if it's like your environment, for example. So say that, you know, my place at the moment is quite busy, it's quite bustly. I'm in the process of moving, so there's a lot of stuff everywhere. When we clear the house, you know, when you have a really good clear and you put stuff where it belongs rather than where it is. So you take the books off the floor and you put them on the shelf. You take the Hoover and you put it. And that sense of calm that you get when you're in a really kind of clean space, I believe IEMT is like doing that, but mentally. It's basically sorting out all of these things that are causing you problems now and just putting them where they belong. So you don't remove a memory like this is a memory. You don't remove it like it's that, right? You're readdressing your reaction to it. because that's what the problem is. It's the emotion, not what happened, but it's your emotional reaction to it and how you remember it in that sense. And so I believe it's kind of like the same thing. Somebody said to me once, you're like a Marie Kondo, but for the head. And I was like, I looked up Marie Kondo. She's like a 4 foot something Asian woman. I don't think we're that similar. But it is that same thing though, really. It is about sort of just sorting out this junk and this nonsense that's constantly whirring away, and just putting, when everything's put in its place, you can then actually be a lot more productive, a lot happier, a lot calmer, and start to actually create things going forward without all the resistance of what's around you.
Absolutely.
Trevor, if people want to get in contact with you for sessions or to just annoy you, if somebody wants to sort of come see you and stuff, what's the best place to find you? Social media, websites, emails? Where are you found?
Yeah, website, Real Changes for Life. So my website is www.realchangesforlife.co.uk.
Oh, for that. So is that Real Change? Is that spelled FOR or the number 4?
No, not the number. It's the word.
FOR4. Are you on socials at all? Do you do much stuff on there?
Yeah,
or
I've got a Facebook group. I've got a private one as well. So yeah, you can find me on there.
And is that Real Changes for Life people look for on there?
That's right, yeah.
Trevor, thank you very, very much. I know it's the England final this weekend, so go and enjoy it as much as you can. And I will see you either at future trainings and events or just on the WhatsApp groups and on the Facebook group, okay? Thank you very much for doing this interview. Thank you for going through the course. And it sounds like you're making some brilliant changes in people's lives, and go do it some more.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.